live to Tehran. We're going to speak to our correspondent Reza Sayar, who joins us from there. Reza, a pretty strong response from Tehran here then.
Strong condemnation, Stuart, and that's no surprise. But we've also seen reaction that's been humorous and sarcastic. Yesterday, the foreign ministry says the U.S. doesn't have any more sanctions to impose on Iran. An Iranian used his Twitter account to tweet that the only Iranians Mr. Trump has not sanctioned is myself and my family, and he offered the U.S. president his contact information, just in case he wanted to reach him. But generally speaking, Iranians have the impression that these sanctions are not going to impact the economy that much, that they're more symbolic in nature. And that's because the major sanctions, those targeting the energy sector, Iran's oil sales, the metal industry, they've already been imposed by Washington. Many Iranians believe that these sanctions are designed to perhaps insult and humiliate Iran's senior leadership and make diplomacy much more difficult. Some of the sanctions, of course, targeting Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, senior figures of Iran's Revolutionary Guard. But keep in mind, Ayatollah Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, doesn't travel outside the U.S. He doesn't use U.S. Financial institutions. Again, that's why many observers say that these sanctions were symbolic in nature. The U.S. also announcing that later this week, they're going to sanction Mohammad Javad Zarif, Iran's foreign minister. Of course, that's another indication to many here in Iran that the U.S. doesn't want diplomacy, because if there is to be diplomacy, Mr. Zarif will likely lead them. He's been the face of the nuclear negotiations ever since 2013 when these talks started. Now, according to the U.S. Treasury, he will be sanctioned later this week.
Reza, bearing in mind everything you just told us there, do you think there's any chance under these conditions that Iran could change its mind and come back to the table?
No indications at this point, Stuart. And what's interesting and somewhat amusing to Iranians is Mr. Trump continues to say he wants talks with Tehran. He wants to negotiate, which, by the way, contradicts his own Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who laid out earlier 12 conditions that Iran must meet for negotiations to take place. But Iran has made it clear that if there is to be negotiations, the U.S. has to come back and honor the nuclear deal and withdraw sanctions. Not only that, Iran has announced that on July 8th, that's in about 2 weeks, they're going to ramp up uranium enrichment and use clauses within the nuclear deal to scale back some of their commitments. And that's when a lot of people are going to be really concerned, because they will expect the U.S. to hit back, because it has been a tit-for-tat conflict, and that seems to be escalating.
Reza, thanks very much. Reza Sayar, our correspondent, speaking to us live.